evening and welcome to Startup Central right here on ET Now, and I'm Karunya Rao. We have an action-packed show lined up for you over the next half hour. But let's start with the weekly funding meter that saw some big deals this week. Alone, in fact, this week we saw about $242 million being raised by startups, largely driven by the big fundraisers by Ninja Card and Mobile Premier League. To discuss this, we have Varadarajan from Venture Intelligence on the show. Okay, Varadarajan, hi and good evening. Welcome on board. I want to start with how you rate the weekly action, $242 million across 21 investments. Any specific trend that stands out for you?
Good evening, Karunya. It's good to be on the show. Yeah, with 21 investments, in the week, it's been a very good week. It's been an excellent week to say, with Tiger Global leading a $90 million round in Ninja Card, or, Sequoia announcing their first cohort as a part of their search program. And Sequoia had a very busy week actually. Apart from their search investments, right, they made 3 other investments as well. And, just so it's been a very good week if you ask me. And if you move to the top investments, right, there's of course Tiger Global's, $90 million investment in Ninja Card. There were certain questions raised, what would Tiger Global do, with Lee Dixon leaving and, 2 other executives taking over, Scott and, Cole Chaseman, whether they will continue to do, very large deals like they have done in the past. This deal sets a record, This is the largest first check they have ever written in an Indian startup. And this kind of continues, the previous trends as well, what we've discussed, that they are continuing to do. Their new investments are mostly B2B investments. It's also a continuation of their, successful relationship with Axel. The company was, Ninja Card was earlier backed by Axel as well. And interestingly, right, this company is also funded by a fund called Tanglin Ventures, which is also founded by former, Tiger Global executives. So a lot of action there. When you move to the second largest investment was also in a very hot sector, which was gaming. With Mobile Premier League raising a really massive $35 million Series A investment. In fact, the company is only 10 months old. And just in the fag end of 2018, they raised about a $5 million, another massive seed round, which we are seeing more and more often now. So just the scale that they've been growing has been very impressive.
Okay, and just want to understand, Sequoia Capital India had also announced its first batch for Surge, their early stage program. How do you view the biggest VC fund entering the space?
So, we were seeing a little bit of slowdown in the, seed investments. So it's very positive to see, Sequoia Capital enter that space, and promise to be very active there through a separate program. There were, when the program was first announced, right, we were thinking it would be more for supporting, very early stage companies in the idea stage or prototype. And we did a short study on the companies that are backed in the first cohort. So they've announced about 17 investments, of which, 9 were India-based. Interestingly, right, they've gone from, so if you look at the age of the companies, right, they are backed very, very early founded companies like, Bulbul, as well as, they back companies like Azani Sports, which is a 7-year-old sporting apparel company trying to take on, Nike and Adidas in India. So that's the range they've done. But interestingly, the average age of the company is in the 2 to 3 year period. So most of the companies that have been backed are with companies with existing product market fit. And moving towards the sectors, right? Globally, across the Asia investments that they've done, most of the investments are in the new e-commerce, formats like social commerce or live streaming commerce. But as far as India is concerned, right, 3 of their investments were in EdTech. And a couple of investments were more B2B, software-focused companies. So that's the kind of investment action that we've seen for the cohort program. And largely, it seems to be a more of a scale-up program, which is what they have advertised it as. So for starters, you're trying to get in the program, it's better if they're 2 to 3 years in operations.
All right. Also the week saw 3 mobility startups raise funding this week. How has the sector fared in terms of investments in your view?
I think it's a huge sign of confidence, to see investors like Naspers, Sequoia Capital, or Nexus Ventures write checks out to Rapido, or even Shuttle, etc. Especially when the sector is facing so much regulation backlash like we've seen in Bangalore. So it's a huge sign of confidence, and hopefully regulation will catch up and enable these startups to function better. And if in the data that we've seen, right, mobility has been largely underfunded segment. So if you look at the history of investments in this sector, right, only the taxi booking has played out, with Ola and Uber now currently fighting it out. But if you look after that, right, there were investments in self-drive car rental companies like Zoomcar or Dev or or DriveC. And then maybe 2015-16, you're seeing more of these bike taxi companies or bike rental or scooter rental companies like Vogo or Rapido, etc. So those are the kind of startups you've seen. And recently, what we're seeing is a slow shift towards electric. But in the data that we've seen, the sector has been largely underfunded. So we will see much more action. Just as we see more and more companies come out of that space, we will expect more and more action.
Great, Varatharajan. That sounds quite optimistic. Thank you so much for joining in and sharing with us your perspective about these developments in the week gone by. Let's move right on to